Good evening, all. Do one more thing here. Huh, there we go. I need a drink after all that. And a chew. This is going to be a either like a bird's mouth bowl or a little bit of a hollow form kind of a thing. This is a log. I just cut it this afternoon. It does have some little cracks already showing. It goes to show how quickly it'll crack. This is walnut. This is not quite as white on the sides as what I thought it might be. It is between centers. I've already lined up the top a little bit so that we're sort of concentric. We probably won't get a whole lot of speed out of it at this point because it's going to be fairly out of balance. But we'll get some material off of it and then we'll straighten some things up. It's sort of like doing a natural edge bowl in some ways. We're going to take off this corner. Just to get rid of some stuff. The bark didn't stay on this, but the hair, some of the underlying stuff did. Kind of have little things flying around at me. Doesn't look like I got it overly well centered either. It is wet. So we'll be able to make some pretty good sized cuts. And then we'll be moving the tool rest a lot. I want to get somewhere up around halfway up, or a little bit more maybe even. We're still going to need a place to chop. And now if we get rid of that, get ready for that. Do remember it's on the high speed pulley, so I can slow it down. Not a good thing for me to do, but just be a little less aggressive. When we come up around there, we're basically cutting a cross end grain. So it is going to cut a little bit harder. We're going to have to reduce the diameter more than what we did. Get back in here and get a little bit more of that out. Kind of need to know where the tenon's going to be. Let's see whether we're getting close to being round or just round. Not quite there yet. That side. I could leave sort of little places like that go if I wanted to. But when you go to hollow it, that's a good place for you to come out through the side. I think I'm going to move around here and get rid of some more of this out here, so that we can get things in balance. I think we'll go straight out, get rid of some of this up here in the top. Because this inevitably is going to curve around that corner. When we go curving around that corner, we're actually going to go in the wrong direction. Get rid of some of the fuzzies. This piece is kind of a little disappointing because that's most of the rest of this walnut that we got has tons of sapwood in, so this time around I picked a piece that doesn't have so much. I was planning on it having like 2 little eyeballs in there, but it is what it is. So we got to figure out a tenant size to grab a hold of. I was thinking the bigger one, but not sure. I'm going to set it and look at it, see what bigger one might be just a little bit too big for this size. Yeah, I think so. I think we'll go with the standard jaws. It'll still give me about a 2 1/4, something like that. I can leave it a little bit big at this point. It ain't going to hurt anything. So we'll mark our tenant, and then we can do more shaping on the bottom and get rid of some more of this. Inevitably, I'll leave the natural edge up at the top. At least that's the plan. And still even kind of big. Go to my 1/2 inch gouge. I can be able to get in closer to things. And it's still plenty out of balance, so I'm going to go ahead and finish up the tenant. That should be good. It's been a long time since I've done any of these, so this is going to be sort of a lot of trial and error. I'm not really planning on leaving any of that bark or any of that in there. Still some more left. Guess we're just going to have to keep on working it way around to get where we need to go. Still don't want to let it speed up though. Would make it a little quicker if it would, but definitely doesn't. Once I get beyond that halfway point, I'm going down and I'm fighting against the grain when I do that. And it's making it much more difficult for it to cut. But we still haven't gotten enough off of it yet. I don't believe we need a whole lot more, because that's going to curve. We're going to take a little bit more off, and then I'll see where we're going to go from there. That should be enough. Close to it, I think. Ideally, they should meet. It's fairly close. We still have some of that to get rid of yet. I think we'll work on how big we want this opening to be. I don't want it to be giant size. At least that's not my thought. We certainly should be able to get a little bit of RPMs out of it now. The question will be, go just a little bit deeper. I think we need to go just a shade bit further down and make this curve come out around. Looks like a semi kind of a circle, or like a half a sphere there. But it is standing that green up to beat the band. We definitely have to definitely work on that. And we didn't do that. Because this is definitely a project that's going to be turned, left to dry, and then sanded. That is not cooperating right there. So we'll try a different tool. See if it'll let me go. It may actually let me go the wrong way. Downhill that way. Maybe. We'll see. We'll stop and look and see whether it is. Beautiful. So that's going to work. It's going to cut it cleanly. And I'm going to get into that sharp corner. Still a little bit disturbed right there. So let's see if the spindle gouge will cut it clean. That's the only thing I'm going to be able to get into that tight corner with anyhow. I cut most of it clean. Got a little rambunctious over here though. That in there needs to be cut clean. There's really almost no way of really getting in there to sand very well. So I think the top part's okay. We just need to work on in this middle section. Done with our spindle gouge. Grab a nice sharp bowl gouge. This walnut that we have has been rather abrasive on tools for some reason. If we just do a little shear scraping across that center point, even things out a little bit. I also left another ridge, so we'll just do a little bit back the other way. Sort of made a little bit of a flat there, actually. A nice light touch. Okay. That's a little bit more of a flat area there than what we really need for the chuck. I'm going to go back down in and clean up a little bit of that, and then I think we're actually ready to flip it around. Because that'd be quite a little bit too big of a foot. Yeah, I think that'll look better. Definitely going to have a lot of color variation to it, which is sort of what we were after. Not totally sure I like this transition. Is almost like flat up here. I think we'll try a little bit with the negative rake scraper and see if I can blend these two a little bit better. This is basically pure end grain right here, almost. Still have a hump. So I was afraid of. It's going to tear it up. So the negative rake, it's not going to work on that. So let's get the nice short 40-degree gouge so I can get in here a little easier. And we'll just try and cut it clean all the way around that curve. And I cut it nice and clean. And now we can go the rest of the way around. We can probably end up smoothing up more of this down here at the bottom. And then we can follow it up. And we'll have to finish that off with the spindle gouge. And a little bit of ridges in there, but that'll be alright. A little bit of disturbed grain. Always in the same place right there for whatever reason. I think we'll be alright. Wait a minute. Not quite ready to do that. Can't have that big knob down there either. Helps to tighten the tool rest up too. Just give ourselves a place to cut it off. So now we can put it in the chuck. And now, I guess for now, everything's going to be coming from in the end. So we might as well switch our view over to there. And we'll move that over a little bit. Now it sort of becomes like hollowing a bowl. We'll be able to do a good amount of this with the bowl gouge, at least part way down through there. And we might have to switch over to the hollowing tools, but we shall see how it cooperates. We did something right because it's spinning nice and true. Probably would be a good idea to just up and drill a hole. I don't need a very big hole, but a hole nonetheless. Get a little piece of tape to mark it. Should do the Richard Raffin routine of I'm not going to go for a complete bottom of the hole or bottom of the vessel. Just sort of a rough idea. We'll slow the speed down to do that. I'll take care of the hole. And now we can go back to our bowl gouge. You just kind of have to remember that hole's there. But that's also a place that when the bowl gouge hits that, it's going to scoot across the center. So now we can do our wall thickness on this up here. And probably want it to be a little bit on the thin side, I would think. At least that's my thought anyhow. This is what you call working blind for sure. Now watch, because that hole's not very big that I drilled in there. It's actually smaller than the wing on that particular bowl gouge. So we're definitely going to end up with the hollowing. Probably would be easier right off the bat. This doesn't have a very big cutter on it. Gotta raise the tool rest up a little bit. Could cheat and put the curved one on right away. Trying to think what I did last time. I'm gonna look at that quick. That one is set at the right height. Because that wants to be cutting at center or just slightly above center. A little dust. So I'm trying to think what I did the last time to cheat this. This is probably going to screw everything up. Or at least maybe. Yeah, I can get it out there. Yeah, it's out of my road, not sitting in front of the camera. So that should be on center. Our name tells me where it's straight up and down. I may end up taking the stock off because it's not very. Yeah, that'll work. So now I can go into the center hole. Basically just sweep to the left. And it's going to fill up with chips in a hurry. And they will. Where's my little wire? I had one that had a little hook on it. No, we just make one with a little hook on. Oh yeah, I do, right there, on that end. Just a little piece of wire with a hook on it. It'll help me dig some of that out because it's wet. And it really kind of like packs in there. Could drag the air hose over and use the compressor to blow it out too. So we're probably at about 3/4 of an inch thick right out in there. Maybe an inch. We're almost to the bottom of the drill hole too. So with the straight tool, I'm going to try and get rid of a little bit more out here. That's probably going to be it for the straight tool. I'm going to have to go. Give me a second. We're going to get the little compressed air. This stuff's really wet in there, and it's not easily taken out. get something in the road to be able to trip over. That'll make that quicker. Clean out the crap. So now we'll go to the bent bar. We'll be able to get in there. See whether our laser... we got batteries. Good deal. Do need a handle for on there though. This one you put your own handle on the back of it. It doesn't need to be a very big handle. This handle's only about 16 inches long, something like that. More than enough for this setup. We don't really need leverage of any kind. Do need my little card though to be able to set the laser. Leave that out. So we'll set it to turn the laser on. So we're going to be up underneath there at about that angle. So if I bring the point over, or the tip over to there, sort of line that up with that. Goes to show that the laser is way off. So this one here, you can move in two directions, just with a little Allen wrench to get where we want. That's about a quarter. I think we're going to go more for along about 3/8 right there. And that should be it. I haven't gone through the side of one of these yet with this system, so that's a plus. So as you can see, maybe we'll go back to the 2 view. You'll be able to see the laser dot on the top. There's really not much to see when you're doing hollowing. Now we got to figure out where we're going to have to go down about the middle section down here, and I'm probably going to go down there and work on cleaning some of that out first. I'm going to slow our speed down a little bit more, because the hollowing tools don't necessarily want the high speed either. And we'll be stopping a lot, because the chips have nowhere to go. So now we can work on going around this curve and come up underneath here. At least that's the plan. Because we're working small sections. And we definitely don't want to pull that out while it's running. That's when things go really bad. So we're getting up underneath that rim. Need to make it, it's very abrupt right there, so we'll need to make that a curve. But we're getting, when the laser becomes elongated is when it's starting to get to the thickness that you're looking for. Also feels like I probably should have taken the time to take that off and sharpen it. We'll just do it the kind of lazy man's way. So we'll just use our diamond hone, a little bit of a fresh edge on that. Sort of want to go the whole way around. See whether that works. We might have to grind it. This one's sort of a pain to grind because I have to take it out of there to do it. Still don't have a very clean, kind of an abrupt curve there, but I can take care of that. Once we get the rest of it, I'll use it actually a negative or a scraper on the same sort of a bar, and I'll go in there. I can easily go in here and clean up that curve at the mouth opening. The other thing we needed to look at, that back in there once, is I have that set there, but when I get out here, that's really about where we're at. It's cutting. It's cutting more so up on that point than on that side. So we're going to move it out into about there. And we'll see what that looks like out here. That should take care of that area. I just have to remember I can't come back too far. You can see about where that line's at. That's where I'm hollowed to, or measured about to there. So now we'll go back here and get rid of some more of the meat. Nope, 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 nope. Like I say, the chips just stay there, and once it'll make the tool actually start to bounce up and down, which is a bad thing. each time I keep going down, when I get down into there, and this becomes 4 chips, and I go down there and clean out some more of that below that. See, we're getting closer over there. We got that center point. That's what it's called, follow the bouncing ball. And that's about as much as we're going to get. Could have brought the shop back over too. It's usually what I do. I usually don't use the air. Now we're down, wall thickness wise, we're down about there. There's a huge clump of material down in here yet to get rid of. I should be able to, yeah, I can actually, it's kind of amazing what you can reach with the curved tool rather than switching back to the straight tool. Just have to be careful. There's huge amount of, all the chips are sitting right here. They try to get out, but they can't. So now we should be able to verify it with this. So we're out in there. I think that could be moved back a little bit. I sort of go on the side of a little bit thicker. You can always take more off, but you certainly can't put it back. So it does cut in both directions. It doesn't seem to really care which direction I'm going. It'll cut just as well pushing in as well as pulling back. We're getting there. About halfway down, sort of. The hump right there, but like I say, this thing really should be ground. Like I say, whatever is in this particular walnut, my dad's been complaining about it, that he's doing a bunch of little bowls with this stuff, and he's telling me he's got to sharpen the tool a lot so we can get rid of that hump in there. Okay, quit. So all you get done doing is cleaning chips out on these. The wetter the wood, the worse it is. And this stuff is pretty wet. Kind of a slow process in some ways. It's also making this dry out fairly quickly. And probably maybe be able to get the surface dry enough once we get it hollowed to actually sand this outside. At least that's the hope. Because this thing will not be even close to being round in a matter of a couple of days. Now I should be able to get the whole way into that cavity down there. Allows me to get that bottom out of there, but it doesn't. As soon as I get back up here, then that's where the chips are sitting. Even though it looked like I only cut for a couple seconds, there's a lot of chips coming off of there. And they're nice. The tools, like I say, the tool needs sharpened though. I may have to go back. I might have to put the straight one on. But I need to get some of this curve up here before I go back to the straight one. It's right in there. We should be good if we're going to go on that angle. I verify this a lot. I don't really want to go to the trouble of trying to hollow something and find out that blow through the side of it at the end. I don't do that many of them, but I have not had that misfortune quite yet. Or, I think I'm going the wrong way there. I think I want it more so in that category. That's really where I'm cutting, really cutting right out here on this tip. Up in there anyhow. Not to mention when they're curly, they actually sort of start to wrap around the end of the tool. Certainly not real smooth in there, but most hollow forms aren't. I will smooth it up at the end. Like I say, I have a scraper that I use by hand, and you can go in there and get a pretty good finish off of it. I think I'm going to, I normally don't, but I don't have, if I go back to the straight tool, I don't have any way of measuring down in here. Now Trent Bosch, which is who makes this system, he pretty much uses the curve tool across the bottom, but he does a heck of a lot of it, so I think I'm just going to bite the bullet. I want to sharpen this one anyhow. Get my little Sharpie and put a line across there. That way, if I don't get it close to where it was, then I'll have to screw around moving the laser. I mean, it's not a super big deal to move the laser, but if I don't have to, it'll make things a little easier. At least I think it will. So 2 seconds worth of Sharpie around there. And then this will just slide out of the handle. And we can put the straight one. Like I say, it definitely needs a trip to the grinder. They probably both could. Tell you what, that's what I'm going to do. Give me 1 short second. I'm going to take and sharpen this one. So I'm going to take a second. Just that cutter is actually just a piece of high-speed steel. Most of the hollowing systems actually use a metal cutting bit for a metal lathe. He doesn't use that. He actually uses high-speed steel. So we'll bring it back over onto the platform. And I'll sort of eyeball it squared up. If anything, I'm going to leave it tilted towards me a little bit. And where's our laser? Laser's way over there. Let's see if we can dig back in there a little further. There we go. That should be close enough. Laser only has so much adjustment to it before I would have to move the arm. Not that you can't move the arm, but like I say, it's just a little easier if I don't have to. I can just use the point. So now we're going to pretty much go straight ahead with it. So we need that to be like out in there. And that line there. Something along that line. So now this should actually, if I can, that shows that I'm already down deep enough right there. That's interesting. It's a good thing, but I really didn't expect it to be quite that. You can see the difference in a tool that's sharp compared to the other one. You get nice kind of like curly shavings coming off rather than dust. Of course, now my fingers are not long enough to reach. But I think I got it. According to my measurement, I do anyhow. You can go in and check. Yeah, it's falling off down here, so I think we're good there. Be better if I wouldn't stick it in front of you. Let me take the handle off. Because from here we're going to go to a little scraper. Okay. It's actually all part of his system. This should be sharp. It's just a little teardrop scraper. I will use it by hand. I will put it so that it's tilted over just a little bit, which creates a little bit of a downward angle in there. And we're going to have to back up the tool rest a little bit, because even though it's a heavy bar, I have to go back a little bit more. This curved part has to be in front of the tool rest when you're using it. And that's pretty much with any of the hollowing tool, any of the bent hollowing tools. If you have it back here, you can see just naturally it wants to flop over. But once you get back up in here, then it's stable. But I'm going to tilt it down in that sort of a fashion. I'll start up here at the top, and I'll just gently slide up and down there and hopefully clean up some of that stuff. That's sort of also why I left it about 3/8 of an inch thick. It's because right here I'm going to be taking off more material yet. And surprisingly enough, the tool is sensitive enough that you can feel the humps in there, if that makes sense. It's kind of amazing that what you can feel coming up through the handle, that you can feel most of the humps and bumps in there, and you can sort of just gently go over them back and forth and get rid of them, at least get rid of some of them. Bottom line is I'm only going to sand as far as I can reach anyhow, if I sand at all on the inside. So we're about halfway down, so we just kind of keep on going. I think that feels like I got it. And you can see, even though it's a scraper, you can see what for shavings is coming off of it. So it is removing a lot more material than what you would ever think it would. You do have to be careful with it. That one doesn't get used that much, so that one actually stays sharp for a long time. Kind of a little bit at the very bottom, a little hump out here. The very bottom is still sort of challenging to get to, because once you get on the opposite side of the rotation, then it wants to pick the tool up. And if I got to the center point, I almost can't reach it. But it felt like it with the tool that I got to that center. I think we got it. So let's see if I can move this without knocking everything silly. So just leave that hooked up for the moment. Don't think we're going to need it anymore. I think we're going to live with that. There is some little humps and bumps in there, but I'm not the one that gets that excited about that. So we're going to hit it in reverse. That's where I like to sand. Probably going to have to get the, yeah, it's going to let me sand, so. Then we'll fire up the dust collector. Me and Walnut don't get along. So I probably, or at least I'm going to start out sanding with sheet paper. Try and get the surface dried off. This is 180 grit paper. And the chuck draws are pretty much a complete circle in there, so I'm not really too concerned about getting my fingers too close. I still don't want to hit my fingers on it. But there shouldn't be any real sharp edges sticking out. Push too hard, it gets hot. It is going to allow me to sand it. I think we'll go for some power sanding rather than hand sanding. See how that goes. Because at this point, if I can get this thing sanded, then it can sit here for the next couple of weeks and move and carry on and do what it wants to do. And then just a little bit of hand sanding after the fact. And it'll be good. It's not clogging it up. So that's a plus. But probably, it's a soft pad. Try it with the hard pad, or harder pad. It may allow me to get down into that groove a little better. We're going to do that in forward. Can't see what I'm doing if I have it upside down. That was 180. We'll go to 240. And we can switch back and do strictly over the head. Not sanding anything on the inside. Seems like there's some places I'm not getting the. I started with 120, so I'm not quite getting the scratches out here in the center part. I believe it's going to get enough of them out that it's not going to be a major core once it dries. But this will only take a couple weeks to dry. If I get my top and stuff for the dresser done, finished, because I use the microwave over in the other room. I can put this in the microwave and dry it in a matter of a couple hours versus a couple weeks. And I'm sure since it's got the center pith in both sides, it already has little cracks coming out from it. That's liable to really crack in the next couple weeks as it dries. I think we'll go one more grit. We'll go to 400 and we'll leave it at that. We're going to work a little bit more with sheet paper down in that groove, as well as the inside of it. But that at least gives me a good head start on the sanding. So it shouldn't make it such a major project whenever it dries. So if I use the folded over edge in there, I can get right down in that crack. I could probably use also, I could use the burning wire and burn a groove in there might be something of interest as well. Once again, we'll go to 400 onto that. And that should be good enough. Now, if we're really brave, you get a fresh piece so it's longer. And we'll spin it forward, not reverse. I'll take and put it in my finger and wrap it over my finger so that I can at least get some of this smoothed out. It's really kind of surprising what you can do. I mean, this is still would be like a little miniature natural edge bowl right there. Would be better if I could get around the corner, because there's a bunch of grains stood up there. I don't know that I can get it to bend around that corner. Here's where it'd be better off if it was on a stick or something, rather than sticking your finger around that corner. And that right there, you can feel it's really pretty wet right there. I think we'll just leave that alone. That was 180. We'll hit a little bit of the other grits with it. More so just out here on this rim. Easier to do it now than when it decides it's going to move, which will be in a day or two. Then it'll be nice and bouncy to try and sand this. I think that's going to be it as far as that one goes. Always a good sign that it's wet, and you see the black, it pulls the black off of the chuck jaws. Not real well sanded down there yet. But this foot will get removed, I think. Or at least this curve will come into the foot, and then maybe we'll make the foot into something beaded. I did leave a dimple right in the bottom. Well, should have got a flashlight out and look. That's actually still part of the drill hole. I can wait till there again. The very center doesn't move much, So once I get this, once this dries, I can put it on a jam chuck. In fact, I just had that jam chuck. This is probably too big around. Maybe not. I'll have to trim that down a little bit. But this, I'll put this in the chuck, and this will go the whole way to the bottom. So I'll be able to work on this part down here in that fashion. That'll be in, probably be in a couple weeks from now. But I think that's good. That'll be good enough for tonight. Something different. We got a little lower on this side than that side, but that'd be okay. That's only a little after 8. I think we're gonna, I do have another one of those blocks cut, ready to go. I don't think I'm going to, I think I'm going to do 2 of the same thing. I'll just wrap that up in some plastic. Do that another night. I'll undo a few things here. I have a nice chunk of cherry, a bold length, that I would like to get moving along. I'll take the hollowing rig. I'll just lay it over here rather than putting it back where it belongs. I have to undo a few things. Get back into the bowl mindset. And looks like I put that one away. Did. His hollowing system does come with the collars to be able to use the smaller hollowing bars that I don't have. I only have the big one, or the bigger one. They're the 5/8 inch bar. Oh, I know what I brought up today. Got one of the end pieces off of that log. I did bring that up. So let's do, it does have a crack right there. I think I should be able to get below it. This side's nice and clean. So if I make that the top, or the bottom rather, it should work. It's only a little piece of wood, so, and we're gonna make it, it will be thin. It'll be an end grain bowl, which are always sort of challenging to do. And of course we have no idea where to put this, so we're just gonna guess for now. Gonna bring it, the tailstock up, and I'll just put just a little bit of pressure on it. Get a tool rest. And we'll sort of center it, just kind of like by eye in a way. So we'll bring it up relatively close, and we can see how far off we are. First off, it's crooked that way. one place here that it's, this log is not exactly what you call round either. So we're away there. So let's go towards that way. We're still way away there. Like I say, this dumb thing is not even really close to being round. So this may be sort of a futile attempt, but we'll get it a little closer than what it is. Or is. So we're high there, low there, pretty good there. Still just low in that one place. One more move over. I think that's going to be, that sort of makes it worse somewhere else. So that's too much that way. We're going to call that good. And I got to get this air hose out from underneath my feet, because we're done with it. So first order of business, we're gonna straighten up this bottom. So we're in forward. We're gonna be off to the side. We're gonna bring our speed up to, we get a vibration. And then we'll go in here and we'll find our bevel. Come back out, move over just a little bit. And we're gonna need a tenant, which I think we'll use the same one that we already just did, which is probably pretty close to where I was at. That's what I thought. You can go a little bit further in. I actually cleaned it up pretty quickly, but this is what I was figuring. We're going to peel the bark off. It ain't going to stay on. And I'd rather take the minute out here to clean the big chunks off. There's even a little worm in there. Probably what killed this tree. The little teeny tiny little worm. Yep, that's tight there. I know it won't stay on once we get down thinner. It has a tendency to smack your fingers pretty hard. Or smack you in the head. Of course, maybe if it hit me in the head and knock some sense into me or something, but okay. Now we got the things off of there that's going to hurt. Or scare the crap out of you, one of the two. The little hairy stuff won't do much. So we'll put this on an angle now, because we're just going to sort of give this a gentle curve into the center. Get rid of some hair. It's just kind of distracting to you if you don't take the little bit of time to get that out of the road. Get in there and something hits you in the hand or whatever, you have a tendency to kind of like jump back a little bit. So we'll move our tool rest again, get a little bit more of an angle. We got enough right there for basically for a tenant. It could be a little cleaner on the bottom, which we can take care of that then. But we'll just continue to make this a curve. A very gentle curve. And of course we want to cut very, very cleanly because there is no sanding involved in something like this. That's pure end grain. So to sand that would be very, very difficult. We're going to give it just a little bit more of a curve to it. Could have probably switched to the smaller tool rest too. So I want to leave plenty up here because we know we got a crack over there. And that will create our tenant for us. That's too close for that big gouge. Clean up this bottom here. That'll be our tenant. That's our bottom. It does have some nice white streaks in it. And we could go back to the other view. It would make more sense maybe. Sorry about that. So are we small enough on that? And we could go a little bit smaller there. Looks like it's quite a dovetail too. Kind of stuck the point in there. I used the spindle gouge to clean that up in there. Just to make it nice and crisp and clean into that corner. That's where it's going to grab a hold of it at. And it should be, yeah, be close to bottoming out, but the jaws are about a 1/2 inch thick. That's about 3/8 right now. I'm not able to get this quite as thin as I would like. We have this curve down there. We'll see. see what we can do. That was just a stub center that I was using there, rather than the 4-prong doesn't really do much in end grain. And of course, this is all basically all side grain now, so it's going to compress it quite easily if we got enough off of that, like we did. We'll slow it down, start it up, make sure that we're running true enough anyhow. Actually, this one needs to be fairly true because we're going to go thin. We're going to go down to at least 1/8 of an inch. It'd be nice to go a little less than that, but I don't think it's going to allow me with that dippity-doo right there. Same 40-degree gouge. I could use the 60 here as well. Really wouldn't make any difference. So we're going to bring the speed up to what I'm comfortable with. I'll wait till I get it cleaned off, and then I'll bring the speed up for you yet. I believe we got it flat. At least it felt like it was. We still have a crack. Might end up, as long as it survives, it might end up being kind of interesting with the streaks in it that it has. So now we'll work on getting it thin. We're going to go thin we're not going to go thin all at one time. To get rid of some more of that. Don't need all that. But as you can see, you get some really nice big shavings off of it. That's a hair. I could use some of that and put it on my head. So we're probably about 5/8 of an inch thick right there yet. So now we'll work on this outside part. We'll go in about 1 or 1.5 inches. Or less. Now we're down to 1/4. I don't know that it would survive at 1/4. I'm not sure about that. I'll switch over to the smaller tool. The other one I was using was the 5/8 inch one. I have a tendency to be a little bit strong-handed on that one. So I'll switch over to the 1/2 inch one. Find our bevel, come over, out. Not that far out. I said we were going to make it thin. We certainly made it really thin now. Now we're down to 1/8 of an inch. Out there. As you can see, it's quite flexible. So now we'll just keep on going down a little bit at a time. Switch to the lighter gouge. Come in, find our cutting bevel. Nice and slow. If I'm getting noise off of it, it means I'm pushing too hard against it. I need to back off on the pressure. So it feels like we're pretty even. It's plus we could measure it. Looks like we're pretty good. If anything, we're fattening up a little bit at the bottom, towards the bottom. Switch to the lightweight one. Make this in 2 passes. Get behind where I just left off. Slow down to the middle. Make sure we cut across the center. Do have some ripple marks out there though, but there's nothing I can do about them. I should have seen them before I went that far, because I definitely don't think I'm brave enough to put my fingers behind here to support it. So it's just going to have to live with some little ripple marks in it. Just to add a little character to it. Like I say, this is a non-sanding kind of a project. Kind of a organic type shape, I guess you would say. Ooh. I gotta left a hump in there that we need to get rid of. It's also just about inside of that tenon. Last one of these I cut too much off of the tenon and blew a hole in the bottom right there. So we'll try not to do that this time. Okay. I think that's going to be good. I should do more of these. These are kind of fun to do in a way. They're not something that a whole lot of people do. They don't understand the concept of cutting end grain. So now we'll flip it back around. And we'll recut this foot a little bit. We definitely are going to have to be careful, because I would say that that very center is definitely down inside of that foot. At least by the way it sort of feels, looks. So don't think I can use the big one. Maybe I can. And I think I'm going to put my paper towels in there so it doesn't leave a mark. So we'll come back to our original center point, and we'll put just enough pressure to keep it from spinning. As you can see, I could still spin it a little bit by hand. I don't need that super long tool rest either. So I think a lot of this we're going to do probably with our spindle gouge. Probably need to go up a little bit on the tool rest. Can probably do some of it with the bowl gouge. If I could use my... I do have a little 3/8 inch bowl gouge. That's probably a better place to start with that. You got to clean up them tool marks, or the jaws, where the jaws were at, for one. So it should run pretty true. We're not going to see how fast we can run it at this point. It would really be nice if I could actually shrink that smaller, but I don't want a hole in the bottom. So I think we'll just make that into a little bit of a bead there. And we'll bring the other half of the bead around. and sort of gently stroke it around and use it as a scraper a little bit. We'll see how rough that looks. Not the greatest. I can't. No, they let me do that. So that cleaned that up. I'm just going here and clean this corner. Make sure we're undercut. Even though I know this very good and well, this thing is going to move. That's why I sort of went around the corner here and make this more so undercut, because that way when this thing goes all wonky or whatever, I can just put it on a piece of, either on a disc sander or a piece of sandpaper or whatever, wiggle it back and forth and flatten it out. So we can just make that smaller, less sanding to do. I don't think we're going to get too carried away, because that is pushing directly into end grain, so it could break quickly. I think I'm going to try and sand that just a little bit. Just because it doesn't really look very nice. And that right there, that section right there would actually be sort of like a spindle orientation. Because the rest of it, don't think you can really, no, not enough pressure. I won't be able to sand the rest of it. Like I say, that is pure end grain. I might be able to get rid of some of the tool marks on the backside, but that's about all I'm going to get rid of. So I'm going to see if I can get rid of some of those bigger scratches there. I normally finish this kind of stuff with the Parfix CA, but I think, just for shits and giggles in a way, I think I'm going to put some linseed oil and beeswax on this, see what it'll do. Should have thought of that on the inside. I could have done that on the inside before I flipped it around. The linseed oil was also going to make it dry a little bit more evenly. going to give it its color right off the bat, as you can see. Get rid of my face shield. Get some down in that crack. Like I say, it is end grain, so it soaks it right in. We'll wipe off the excess. Now let's put a little beeswax on it. And put my face shield back on just in case it decides to explode. We'll go back to our paper towel. And we'll sort of rub that in as best as we can. Really what I'm trying to do is get the beeswax to melt. As you can see, it changes color. That's a real simple finish for something like this. Should have, like I say, I should have done the inside, but this should be, keyword should be, this may create should be pretty close to a perfect circle in there, and it is. I'm not going to squeeze hard on it, just enough to hold it. And that should not leave any marks on the inside, or leave any marks on that little bead that I created in there. So now we can go ahead and do the same thing to the inside. Get a fresh little bit of paper towel there. It is an oil-based product, so I'm going to open the paper towel up, put it over the side of the can. Missed a spot. Likes to leave lots of little fuzzies behind with the paper towel. Clone Robot, welcome aboard. Thank you for the follow. So we'll give that a second to sort of soak in and dry off a little bit. How are you this fine evening? So bring a speed up a little bit. Put the beeswax in there. Then we'll use paper towel. What we're doing is creating friction to melt that beeswax. Of course, in the very center, I can push fairly hard. Out here, I can't. Doesn't give it a real, it's sort of a matte kind of a appearance finish wise. Probably could, since I managed to have success on this one, maybe I'll do some more and I'll let them dry a little bit and then put a other finish on. As you can see, it's rather flexible. So the only thing left to do to it is to sand this little nub off the bottom. And if my circle was right, which it is, you can't find any chuck marks in there because it was grabbing down in this groove to start with. And it left no evidence that that's what I did with it. But it is quite flexible. It's about an eighth of an inch thick. I could really truly measure it. Yep, about an eighth of an inch thick. I did leave some ripple marks out there. That's kind of disappointing. So we need to sand the little nub off. Very simply, we're going to use a disc sander, a little 2-inch disc sander. 400 paper would be a little bit much. Need more like 120. We can actually use them all. You could also use like a Dremel or something like that to carve some of this away first. In this case here, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. It would be a better idea yet to turn the dust collector on, because walnut does not like me. Just about there. Also clogging my sandpaper up. If it is sort of wet, rubber stick will take that stuff right off. And that's got it all. The pith is a little bit off center on there, which may be a good thing or may not be, I'm not sure. I'll also clean that before I take it off. If I clean it before it dries, it'll be better. So I'll run through a couple of the grits. Not really too worried about it. Like I say, it's gonna move for sure. So that was 150, we're not going there. I think we'll hit it with just a little bit of 220 and call it a day. Call it good enough. That would be pretty much next to impossible to grab on the vacuum. So we'll put a little bit of linseed oil on the bottom. Not going to worry with the beeswax also. Have to dry that all, wipe that all. That sawdust may stick to it. It won't work. Well, let me put it to you this way. In a simpler term, CA glue requires moisture to cure. So if I put it on a piece of wet wood, it will instantly cure. It wouldn't give me the chance to rub it in and let it soak in. It would just instantly set up. So no, it's not it's not something to put over wet wood. Even if you're doing some work with some wet wood and you have a crack in it, your best bet is to let the wood dry, let the crack do what it's going to do, and then fill it with whatever. You can fill it then with CA glue. Actually, I have a bowl over there that needs the crack filled. If you'd like to see how I do that, it is dry. So that's our little miniature bowl. I'll turn my dust collector off. Which is a new dust collector. That was last week's episode that my other one, the motor, crapped out on. So we'll just sit that off to the side and we'll let it dry and see what it does. There should be plenty of movement, I would think. Hopefully the pith doesn't crack and split up the side. But we'll see. I could have had a lighter touch in there with the tool, but did good on the outside. It's just the inside. When it starts to get thin, this is really good practice if you try and do thin work, is to have the good tool control and the light touch to be able to make real light cuts or light touch cuts. It doesn't have to be a real fine cut. It can be a fairly thick cut. It just has to have limited amount of force going into that piece out there because it is flexible. As you can see, it is quite flexible. And that's actually fairly thicker than what I thought it was on the bottom. We'll see. Stop back next week and we'll see what it does. I'll just let it sit out in the open. I think I probably could put it in a paper bag. That would probably actually be a better thing to do with it. So I do have a bowl that I need to work on filling some cracks. I gotta get some mica powder. So the question is, what color do we want to do? Should do something different. This cherry. I do a lot of them in red. Let's do it in. Let's do copper. That's what I'm working on. That was one thing I didn't do at the demonstration on Wednesday evening. I was in a little bit of a time crunch, sort of. So let's go strictly overhead. We don't need two views. So we go over there, get rid of the hose. So this bowl has a really nice crack in it, quite big. This is cherry. It is dry. The problem here is that this crack comes the whole way to the inside. So I do have to cover up, do something with this in here right off the bat. I don't want the super glue to run the whole way through, because it does go the whole way through. I can see daylight through it. So we're going to just use some painter's tape on it. And we'll kind of hope for the best there. And my wife stole my small roll of painter's tape, evidently. Well, we'll have to use some 2-inch painter's tape. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray activator in that area. And I sprayed it up close and personal because I want it to go down in that crack from this side. I'm going to do it on, actually I'll do it on both sides the same way. Reason being, I want that when, because there's no if, it's when that hits that area down there, it's going to immediately start to set up. It's not going to stay liquid. So we've sealed up the inside. And now the fun part's going to be able to hold it. Gloves is going to be the first order of business. This can be messy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It can be very messy to fill in these cracks like this. But it is a good way of doing it. We'll get our paper towels handy. We're going to spray our activator. Just like the back one, I'm going to come up close and personal. I'll spray it down in that crack. Because I want it to start to set up as soon as it gets down in there. That way it'll help it cure from the bottom to the top. And keep it from, it'll help to keep it from running every which way but loose. So I need a popsicle stick. simple stirring method. I got to get everything over here where you can see what I'm doing. Simple paper cup, and this is one of them like bathroom. It is a paper cup. It's going to allow me to that's more than enough. This is mica powder. Mica powder is probably the only thing so far that I've found that will allow you to put the super glue in it. To my surprise, I tried some Aluminite. It's probably not enough. Aluminite dye, because I mean Aluminite for the urethane resin is very does not like moisture. Cannot have any moisture, but yet their dyes set this super glue off immediately. As to the point of I dropped a drop of dye in there and it bubbled up and went hog wild crazy. So I'm going to stir this up real good. You're going to say, well, how in the world are you going to do this? This already has a time delay to it. In case you don't know anything about this particular super glue, it has a 50-second time delay. But I can tell you right now, I could leave that probably go for a couple minutes before it would even think of setting up. So I can fold this over and get a nice, let me move my tool rest over a little bit. So I have a nice place to put my elbow, put my arm. So we can hopefully see, so you can see what I'm doing. The biggest part of this up here is where I'm going to start. I'm just going to try and dribble it right down in that crack. And as you can see, it's filling up even back down in here. That copper color has went down into there. Here's where it becomes messy. It's trying to get it to move to where I want it to go and follow that crack along, because it's already starting to set up. You probably can't see it on the camera, but it's sort of swirling around like it's already like it's setting up. And it is, because you put that amount of activator in there and it's going to go quickly. Here's where it gets messy. Try and maneuver it around to get it to go down in there. I mixed up way more than what I needed to, but we got more than one crack to fill. And I can tell you right now, come on, let go. It went through to the inside because it stuck I thought I felt my finger sticking fast to something. You little bugger. Ripped my glove right off my finger. I must have missed part of that crack on the inside. Too much. No. I don't want it running everywhere. But I want to get it as filled up as I can. Like I say, this is always messy. Can dab off the excess there a little bit. Gotta get rid of that glove because it did go down through my glove onto my finger. Onto the lathe. Be really messy. So that crack, minus the glove part in there, it did come through to the inside right there for whatever reason. That other crack actually looks like it does the same, sort of the same thing. So we're going to fill that because we still have more super glue mixed up. So I'm going to hit the activator in there again so that it starts to set up as soon as it gets to that point. I'm also going to get another glove. I'd rather ruin the glove than stick my finger fast to something. I should have known it was there. Like I say, that's glue, super glue in the container is still more than viable. It's still liquid. I need my finger out of the road this time. KappsKreations.com. All K's. No problem. Evident. Oh, you know what? Did I not do what I think I did? I don't think I sprayed activator down in there. Shoot. And it's dripping out the other side. Or it ran out the other side. I'm really trying to make a mess here. Like I say, I'm just trying to get it as full as what I possibly can. I will probably have to recut a little bit on the outside of this bowl. I guess give it a little shot of activator to make it start to set up on the surface anyhow. Well, you won't be able to see it. I can see the little itty bitty cracks that go the whole way through right there. They're copper colored, so it went the whole way to the other side. It has just left me a little bit of a depression there, which I'd like that to fill up. We can sort of cheat that a little bit and make the surface of it. I hit it with the activator. That'll make the surface cure or it'll make the surface set up, but what's underneath that is still very wet. So it's going to fill that, should fill that crack in. This is definitely, you do this, you definitely let this go for at least a day. Because just because you used all the activator on it like I did, doesn't mean that it's going to be cured the whole way through the piece, because it won't be. And you don't want flinging super glue flying around and getting in your face. For sure. It is rather messy to fill cracks. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And there's not enough left in there to make it worthwhile. But as you can see, the amount of time, well, there is still a little some in there. The amount of time that we farted around here, it's still liquid. It's not enough to fill this crack, though, for sure. Activator. I just put the rest of it in this crack and try and get it to go to the bottom side of the crack, because there's a crack going across the rim as well. And that's what it wants to fill first, of course. Come on, give me one more little drop and we'll be good. I'm gonna do it. Here we go. When you get enough on your glove, you're gonna find out what super glue does. It gets hot, which most people don't know that either. It's super glue actually will get very, very hot. I have to get a razor blade out to get that off the bedways. We don't necessarily have that one there totally filled. Those are filled. But even though that one is not necessarily totally filled, I mean, we could certainly mix up some more, but it already has the colors there. The color is down in that crack. So if I just put a little bit of clear, same one, the 3460, which is what I use to fill cracks. The 3408 does not do very well for filling cracks, because it doesn't play well with going over top of itself multiple times. Definitely don't spray the activator with an open bottle sitting anywhere in the vicinity. One little drop of that activator in that bottle and it's going to set the whole thing off. So I think that'll be good enough. We'll see. No, don't take that off. Leave that alone, because it could possibly still be wet, although it's not. Come on, let go, tape. like I say, that's something to let go for at least a day. And what I will do with this, I can leave this go till next weekend. I can do that next weekend on my live. What I will do with that is put it back on as well, this one here I actually have a groove, so I can actually grab this with the big jawed chuck. And then what I would do here is actually hit that with like 120 grit sandpaper on the disc sander. It'll probably clog a disc up, but it's easier to take and sand that all back down to the crack rather than leaving these humps up here. Because if I touch that with a tool, that's the first thing it's going to hit, and you could chip it back out, which we don't want to do. Once it's down flush with the surface, I can make a cut up across there. I could use a scraper or whatever up across it, and it usually won't pull any of it out. That's also a knot right there. Another good place, we don't necessarily need it to be colored. That knot's soft, I would assume. So if I put some of that on there, as you can see, it's soaking it right into the knot. As you can see, it just totally disappears as it goes. Now, chances are, I'm going to pull this over there rather than putting the lid on. What I did was spray the activator on the inside so that it doesn't come the whole way through. Or it can come the whole way through, but once it hits the other side, the activator is going to start the polymerization process, and it ain't going to go any further. So we're basically stabilizing that little knot. Well, that's actually a little bit of a pith in there. So it's still soaking in. The surrounding area doesn't soak in. We didn't get it through to the other side yet. So a little drop on there, right smack in the knot. Because that knot, the grain should actually be going down. It should be like end grain soaking it in. To a point. It's okay. I'm going to take it off to the side again. I'm going to spray it. One little squirt. I'm not spraying it up close and personal either. On that case, it's spraying it at a distance. This is not going to soak as much in because I sprayed activator in there. So it's going to set up quickly. And we've also what we've done with the other side, we've eliminated, think of this as about 150 straws going down through there. What I've done is closed up the other end of the straws. So now it can't get that natural action of it sucking it through. And check on our cracks up here. A little bit right there. We're going to have to take more off of this rim anyhow. Not really too concerned about that. I don't want to take off any more than what I have to, but as you can see on the inside, there's where we filled that crack. The copper came the whole way through. This one I can see the copper color, so it's right there. And like I said, this will get a little bit taken off the rim just to even it back out. And we'll do the same thing on the back side. We'll even out all this stuff before we sand it. Because we'll have to take this side for sure has to have another probably 1/16 of an inch taken off of it to get below, because some of this is going to have soaked into the grain. We're going to have a copper color around this, even when we go cutting it back. So we'll want to take and take some of that off. I could have, should have probably put some, I could have put some super glue, some clear super glue around it first. And then it wouldn't have soaked into the grain. And if we take a chunk, when we go back and redo this, if we manage to pull, take a chunk out of it, back out of the crack or whatever, you could just mix up some more copper, or as long as the color's still there, you could just fill it back in with the clear to end up with a nice smooth surface. Like I say, this will need to dry for a solid day. That also gives me another project that's semi-finished. Put some things away here. I got to get my razor blade to clean that, get that super glue off of there. And there is a ton of mica powders out there. Ton of colors, I should say. Tons of different ones, different mica powders too. I can't say that I know any of what the difference would be between brand A and brand B. It's mica powder. You can buy it, and if all you're going to do is fill some holes with super glue, you certainly don't need the whatever 2-ounce container or 3-ounce container that I just showed you. I do some casting as well. I had bought them years ago. But you could go to like a Michael's or Hobby Lobby or something like that and get the really little ones. The stuff is actually fairly expensive. I think that kit there, forget how many colors there was. There was a bunch. There's probably 15 or 20 colors. You say, well, that's, if all you're going to do is fill like cracks or try and do some different stuff with super glue, I mean, that size container is going to last a long time. Because I put way more in than what I really needed to in that one, in the one I just used. It only takes a little bit to color it. But it's always something to play with. Salvage a bowl or salvage a piece of wood that cracks. Because I mean it's going to happen sooner or later. Because I do most of my work is done with wet wood. Most of the bowls and stuff like that are all done with wet wood, and then just let them dry. There's some things you can do to help it, but if there's a crack, there's a crack. The crack was already, just like that little cherry bowl that I was just playing with, that crack was already there. It wasn't something that happened while it was drying. Well, maybe it did, but that was in a log. It has been around probably 8 or 9 years. So, Anybody have any other questions, comments, questions? Otherwise, we're going to see if there's anybody else on. Gotta end the stream. If you've watched this in YouTube, if you could hit that subscribe button, that would be great. Otherwise, we're here Sunday evenings. So YouTube, have a good week, and we'll see you next weekend. The 3460. If you want to get your feet wet using these products, I have a thing. The very first thing you're going to see on the web page is 2 bottles for a price, which is basically 2 2-ounce bottles. It'll be the 3408 and the 3460. 3408 is the single coat finishing CA. The 3460 can be put, you can use multiple coats. I can show you right here what multiple coats looks like. This one, this is the, were you on this Worldwide Wood Turners meeting on Wednesday night? I just did a demonstration on this. This had 1 coat of the 3408 on it, and then I buffed it, and then I decided, because this is an ice cream scoop, this is something that's going to be used a lot and handled a lot. So I decided I would go back. I grabbed it with a small jaws, and I put another, I think like 4 coats of the 3460 over top of that, because the 3460 will allow you to put multiple coats on. The 3408 will not. The 3408 is meant to soak in 1 coat, wipe off the excess, and then buff it. This has multiple coats of the 3460 on it. Okay. As in the York Guild meeting? I assume that's what you're talking about. Because I'm at the Harrisburg Wood Turning Club, but that's sort of the pen that would be the pen, what most people would do with pens or something like that has multiple coats on. And then here's the cherry bowl that I did for the demonstration. Okay. Gotcha. This one needs the base finished up yet. This has the 1 coat of the 3408 on it and then buffed. Very simple finish to use for the wood turning world. I think, anyhow. I like it. That's pretty much all I use. I need to get them couple finished up so I can show them on Wednesday night. Any other questions? Did you find a website? I guess that's a better question. At any rate, I'll put the website in here. Oh, you're quite welcome. Like I say, I'm here pretty much every Sunday night. Kapps Kreations. There's the website. That's my website. That's where you can find it. There's also some videos well, you found the YouTube video tonight. There's also some recorded videos on how to use mainly the 3408. I don't remember if I had anything on there with the 3460 or not. I should do one on showing how to fill the cracks. That would probably be a good one, but yeah. Like I say, thanks for watching. And like I say, come back anytime on a generally Sunday evening. That's my day off is Sunday and Monday. So for now, so we're here Sunday evenings around 6:30. Always doing something on the lathe. I don't show any of the. I don't do any of the woodworking live on stream. It's too much. There's too much distraction as far as I'm concerned. So I like my fingers, but I can be distracted on the lathe, and it doesn't really bother me. All right. Well, have a good week, and we're gonna call it a night and go have a couple adult beverages and be back at it tomorrow. So we'll get rid of the YouTube.